Back in the days, a tree started appearing in places no one was paying attention to. Along highways, behind warehouses, pushing through abandoned ground. Within a single year, it shot up nearly 20 feet. Within a decade, it was ready to be cut, used, and sold. While most hardwoods took generations to mature, this one moved on a completely different clock, quietly resetting what growth was supposed to look like. The tree in question, Paulownia. At first, it didn't seem like much, just another fast-growing plant filling empty space. But the deeper people looked, the stranger it became. The wood it produced was lighter than oak, yet strong enough to handle serious structural use. In other parts of the world, it had already been valued for centuries, grown intentionally, protected, and turned into some of the most precise and durable wood products ever made. But in the United States, something different happened. By the time people began to realize what it could do, it was restricted. So how does something this valuable end up being treated like it has no value at all? Well, we will cover the full story, from how amazing the tree is to why America calls it a weed. Welcome to Lost Green Law. If you enjoy this kind of content, you will really help us out if you could like the video and hit that subscribe button. Thank you. Now moving on. Forestry has always operated on a simple expectation: you plant today so that someone decades from now can harvest. That timeline is built into everything: land use, investment, and even how forests are managed across generations. Oak commonly takes 40 years before it reaches a usable size. Walnut can take 60. Entire industries are structured around waiting. Then this tree enters that system and compresses the timeline so aggressively that it barely fits the model at all. In its first growing season, it can reach heights close to 20 feet under the right conditions, with a straight trunk forming almost immediately. By the time it reaches 5 to 10 years, it has already developed into a harvestable tree, producing usable timber within a single human planning cycle rather than across generations. What normally requires decades of patience becomes something measurable in a few seasons of consistent growth. The difference becomes even more unusual after the first harvest. When most trees are cut, the process starts over. New seedlings, new planting, new waiting. With Paulownia, the root system remains alive beneath the soil. Within weeks of cutting, new shoots begin to emerge from the same stump, drawing from an already established root network. This regrowth accelerates quickly, often producing another harvestable trunk without the need to replant or purchase new stock. Over time, that single planting can support multiple harvest cycles, each one faster than the initial growth because the root system is already developed. The tree does not follow the usual rhythm of planting, waiting, and restarting. It continues from where it left off, reducing years of delay into a repeating cycle that stays within a single lifetime. The moment its potential became clear, it began to move beyond the land where it grew. You see, long before it appeared along American roadsides, this tree had already been integrated into systems that treated wood as something precise, intentional, and deeply understood. In China, cultivation of Paulownia can be traced back more than 2,000 years, where it was planted alongside agricultural crops in managed systems designed to balance timber production with food cultivation. Its broad leaves created shade patterns that protected soil moisture, while its fast growth allowed farmers to harvest timber without removing land from production for decades at a time. By the time the tree became established in Japan, it had taken on a more refined role. The wood, known there as kiri, became associated with craftsmanship that required stability, lightness, and consistency. It was used in the construction of traditional storage chests designed to protect silk garments and documents from humidity, as well as in musical instruments such as the koto, where the acoustic properties of the wood were valued for their clarity and resonance. These uses depended on a material that could remain dimensionally stable over time, even in environments where temperature and moisture fluctuated. In the modern era, this understanding did not disappear. Large-scale plantations expanded across China, where Paulownia is now grown on millions of hectares as part of agroforestry systems. Similar efforts have taken root in countries such as Spain and Australia, where the tree is cultivated for commercial timber production. The demand has remained consistent, particularly in markets that prioritize lightweight, stable wood for both traditional and contemporary applications. When Japanese buyers began sourcing logs from the United States in the late 20th century, They were responding to a material they already understood in detail. Their interest was not speculative. It was based on centuries of familiarity with a wood that had already proven its value. The reason for that demand becomes clearer when the wood is examined beyond its surface. The characteristics of Paulownia begin to make sense only when the wood is examined as a material rather than as a tree. Its structure is defined by a low density that places it far below most common hardwoods in weight, often around 1/3 that of oak, while still maintaining a level of strength that allows it to be used in structural and functional applications. This balance between lightness and strength has been studied in wood science, where Paulownia consistently shows a high strength-to-weight ratio relative to many other species. One of its more unusual properties appears under heat. Laboratory testing has shown that Paulownia wood ignites at temperatures significantly higher than many traditional hardwoods, with figures often cited around 788 degrees Fahrenheit. In practical terms, this means the material resists ignition longer under the same conditions, which has drawn attention in applications where fire performance is a consideration. Its behavior during processing adds another layer of efficiency. The wood dries quickly, often reaching workable moisture levels through air drying in a matter of weeks, rather than the extended periods required for denser hardwoods. This reduces both time and energy inputs during preparation. At the same time, it exhibits a level of dimensional stability that limits warping and cracking as it dries, making it suitable for uses where consistency over time is important. These properties have led to its adoption in areas where reducing weight without sacrificing performance matters. It has been used in components for recreational vehicles, interior paneling, surfboards, and lightweight structures where material efficiency directly affects performance. Each of these uses reflects a consistent pattern, a material that performs beyond what its density would suggest, and does so with a reliability that has been measured, tested, and repeated. As its practical uses expanded, a separate conversation began to form around where and how it should exist. In February 1999, a policy decision introduced a classification that would shape how this tree was treated across the United States for decades. Executive Order 13112 established the National Invasive Species Council, creating a coordinated framework for identifying and managing species considered harmful to ecosystems, agriculture, or human health. Within that framework, Paulownia tomentosa, one of several species within the genus, was identified in multiple regions as a non-native invasive. The reasoning behind that designation was tied to how the tree behaves in specific environments. You see, Paulownia produces a large number of very small seeds that can travel through wind and settle in disturbed ground, such as construction sites, roadsides, and areas affected by fire. In these open conditions, where sunlight is abundant and competition is limited, seedlings can establish quickly. This pattern led land managers and environmental agencies to monitor and, in some cases, restrict its spread in order to prevent it from occupying newly disturbed habitats. The classification, however, extended beyond the single species in practical effect. While the designation applied specifically to Paulownia tomentosa, public perception did not remain confined to that distinction. Other species within the genus, including Paulownia elongata and Paulownia fortunae, and became associated with the same label despite being managed differently in cultivation and not appearing on invasive species lists in many other regions of the world. As the classification spread through state-level policies, restrictions followed. Several states introduced limitations on planting or actively discouraged its use in forestry and landscaping. The result was a shift in how the tree was approached, moving it from a potential resource into a regulated presence. A single classification, applied within a specific context, reshaped the trajectory of an entire group of trees. Interestingly, the classification did not remove the tree from the landscape. It continued to grow in the same places it had always appeared, along highways, across disturbed ground, and in areas where sunlight and open soil allowed it to establish itself without assistance. Over time, it became part of the background, recognized more as a presence than as a resource. In the United States, the tree exists in a different context. It grows but is rarely cultivated at scale. It is harvested in limited cases, yet remains largely absent from mainstream domestic markets. And that's it. So if something this capable can remain overlooked while growing openly around us. How many other resources do you think are shaped more by how they are labeled than by what they actually are? Share your thoughts in the comments section below. Leave a like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell for more amazing videos like this one.